Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the today's session of basics of computers. In the last class, we were discussing about different types of computers, how many kinds do we have, and also um, we were revising about the different generations of computers. Today, we'll be discussing about the basic computer organization. What are the different parts that we have inside a computer? What all uh, what all features do we have and how do they perform those features? We'll be discussing about all of that. But before that, I would like to mention the syllabus once again. For the unit 1, we have basic computer knowledge, basic organization and types of computers. Till today, we were only discussing about the basic computer knowledge where we had we were discussing about the term what is the computer, and after that we were trying to understand what was the first mechanical or calculating device that was invented, and from that stage till what we are today, we were discussing about all of this. So once you have some basic fundamental knowledge about the different kinds of computers that were previously present in the past and how were they operating them, if we have an understanding about that, then it will become much more easier and we'll have a different kind of an exposure where we'll be able to understand the technology that we are using today. Otherwise there will be some kind of a gap that will be always present if you don't understand the fundamentals. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that you understand what a computer is actually, and how many kinds of computers we had before and how did we evolve into the present generation. And after that, today we'll be discussing about computer organization, where we'll be discussing about the CPU, what are the parts inside the CPU, how do they all interact, and how do they perform an operation or a task that is provided by the user. That is what we'll be discussing in computer organization. After that, later in this class, we'll be discussing about the types of computers. In the last class, I gave you a classification for types of two different kinds of computers. That is, one is analog, the other one is digital. And when you have a mix of both of these, you'll have that is called as hybrid computers. So this is the classification for computers, and we discussed about the analog computers in the previous class. And later, if you understand the first two lines of this unit, it will be very easy for you and you'll become very familiar with the terminologies of computer. And the later parts of this unit will become very easy for you because we are already discussing about the hardware of the computer as well as the architecture that is present inside the computer. After you understand them at that core level, you'll be very much familiar and comfortable with the other parts like input devices, keyboard. Anyways, we all of us use keyboards, mouse, touchpads, etc. But about it, we know a little, but we don't know what is happening inside a computer organization and how is the architecture actually designed. So we'll discuss about all of that today. Before that, I would like to just give a brief in 5 minutes about the basic computer knowledge, as we had a little gap for our previous class and this class. So initially, what did we discuss? We were talking about computers. What does the term computer mean? Computer means to compute. Generally, what do we have? We have to perform some calculations. That is the main motto of the human beings in the past. In the past, like in the Mesopotamian civilization and all, they wanted to add different numbers, they wanted to make some addition operations to be performed. In such cases, they didn't have any device or a mechanical instrument to perform such operations. They only had to do any number of calculations by hand or by different methods, but not with mechanical or electronic devices. So then at that point of time, they created something known as abacus. In the previous class, I showed you a picture about abacus, how is it and all. You can take it as an activity for understanding how do you perform with abacus. That is one thing. And after abacus, we slowly evolved into the mechanical ways of designing computers. It's not computer actually, because people were until 1800s people were only thinking about calculations, how do they perform these calculations and all. So after the Mesopotamian civilization, in the 1600s, people started to discover calculations for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Initially, they had calculations for addition and subtraction, which were invented by Blaise Pascal. We already saw all that. And after that, in the 1600s, people started to define or design some mechanical kind of devices for multiplication and division too. This is how it all started. It all started with the calculation part of addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, and all. After the 1600s, there was a long uh, time gap between these calculating devices and the computer generations. In 1800s, in the starting of 1800, as we discussed previously, we had something called uh, a weaving company which was trying to automate its printing machines. For that, what they did, they tried to get in the concept of punch cards. Punch cards actually had something, some kind of a design as an input with the holes defining the input, and the the other places where there was no hole in the design, that was considered as a deviation for the design. That is how initially they started to send an input to the machine with the devices. After that, what happened? After 1801, when they started with the punch cards, there was a long gap of 80 years or so. After 80 years, there was Hermann Hollerith, about whom we discussed, started to bring this technology of punch cards into this computing system, where they wanted to input data to the computer. In today's world, how do you input data into the computer? With the help of keyboard or with the help of your touch screen, where you have an inbuilt keyboard into that. But in those days, they didn't have any kind of keyboard nor any other input devices. In such cases, this was a very much revolutionary kind of a technology that they were using, or a concept called punch cards. From there onwards, slowly we started to think about creating or transforming our computer into a fully packed device. Now after that part, what happened? They started to use these punch cards until 1970s, like around more than 80 years or so. They started to use, they had the use of this punch cards, which was the only way in which we were able to input data or input some programs to the computer. So that was all about how it all started. Then if you have to talk about the different generations of computers, we have 5 different generations of computers. The first generation of computers started around 1940, 1945, around that time. And at that point, still they were only using punch cards, as it all started in 1880s or 1890s. From then onwards until 1940s, where we started to create, or we started to develop these electronic computers, or the combination of electrical and mechanical computers. But still, until that point, we didn't have any other input devices. So in such cases, only these punch cards were the sole way of inputting the data to the computer. After that, in the first generation, what did we have? We had vacuum tubes. Vacuum tubes were very large in size, and they occupied so much space in the room for the connection of the circuits. But what happened? Because of this vacuum tubes, they were helping us to connect the circuits, or they were acting as a switch or a diode in our circuits, which helped us to understand if there is an output or there is no output. Why? Because the computers only understand the language of zeros and ones, that is called the machine language. Machines only understand the language of zeros and ones. These vacuum tubes, when they were connected in the circuits, they helped us to they help the computer to understand whether there was an input given by the computer or not, or if the circuit has some current or voltage that is passed into the circuit or not. This is how it all went on. Then after that, what happened? After a few years, we had the second generation of computers, where these vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. Why was it so? Because vacuum tubes, they generated a lot of heat. There was so much heat that was generated by the vacuum tubes, and generally any device which generates a lot of heat, uh, it doesn't last long and it's very difficult to maintain them. These are the two issues we had with issues with vacuum tubes, because these vacuum tubes, they had so much heat generated outside and it was very difficult to maintain them. Also, they were not accurate. At the same time, they didn't give us they didn't have the durability. These are the issues that we had with vacuum tubes. So what we did next, we started to slowly move our step forward towards the semiconductor industry, where we started with transistors. The second generation of computers, they started with transistors. They replaced these vacuum tubes with transistors. What these transistors did, instead of vacuum tubes, we had transistors which were very small in size when compared to vacuum tubes. But still, they also occupied a minimum of space, or that was little more when it is compared to these days computers. These transistors, they are not integrated into some chip or anything, but they were connected into a circuit, and these circuits were helping us to understand the operations of the computer. But still, even though these transistors had much more better accuracy, much more better, there was some mic issue. So that's the reason there was some delay in the class. Let's get quickly into the today's topic, where we'll be talking about computer organization. What are the components, or how many kinds of components, different things we have inside a computer, and also we'll discuss about the input devices. So today we are going to discuss about the different operations performed by all the computing systems, and then the basic organization of a computer system. In the basic organization of computer system, we'll discuss about the different parts that are there inside a central processing unit, CPU, and the input functions, input unit, how many kinds of input devices do we have, and what are their functions, how do they perform their operations. That is what we'll discuss. And then we have output unit, storage unit, and types of storages. These three will only have a very brief understanding of it, where we'll try to understand what is an output unit and what are its functions. After that, we'll see what is a storage unit, what is it used for, and how many different types of storage units do we have. And in the next unit onwards, in the later units, we'll understand what is like, how are these storage units working, what is the architecture, or how is it designed to store some data into your storage units. That we'll see in the later classes. So now the most important thing that we have to understand is, inside the basic computer organization, you have arithmetic and logical unit and control unit. These two are the main parts or main concepts that you have to understand inside the CPU. The CPU actually consists of an arithmetic and logical unit, ALU, and a control unit. Okay, and then we'll see what is the computer system as a whole. These are the things that we'll be going to learn. Now we have to understand there are 5 basic operations for a computer. The first thing is inputting. We all know, right? What do we give? How do we give the data to the computer? We give the data to the computer as an input, and it performs some operations, and then it gives some data, or it gives that processed output or the information in the form of an output. So what we have to understand first, there are 5 basic operations. The first one is inputting. Inputting is the process of entering data or instructions. If you want the computer to perform a task, generally we have to give it some instructions, right? Only if you make the computer understand what you want to do, only then it can perform anything. That is what we were talking about previously. Computers don't know anything by default, or it doesn't have a brain to make its own decisions previously, or even in today's world, the normal computers that we are using, they don't understand anything if we don't give it any instruction or a direction. So in order to first give some instructions to the computer, we need to give it as an input. Only through input you can give some instruction or programs to the computer. Once we give those programs, it has to have a place, or it has to have some device inside the computer which will store the data or the instructions or the programs that we have provided. So that is the reason we have storing. Storing is the second operation that is very important, where saving the data and instructions to make them readily available for initial or additional processing whenever required. Initially, whenever your computer is loading, you have some pre-installed programs or some programs automatically start by itself. That is all because they are all already available inside your computer as an input that we provided, and they are stored inside your computer by your storage unit. Now, once we store the instructions, your applications, programs into the computer, then they might be immediately useful or immediately required for the computer for its operations, or they might be helpful for another task or in another task or in another process. Because once you have stored the data, the computer will have access to the storage unit, and if it feels that there is some requirement with the instructions or programs that you have stored previously, the computer might use this data for another tasks also. So that is about storing. Next, we have processing. What happens in processing? We have, if you consider a very basic computer, the processing is like performing arithmetic operations, add, subtract, multiply, divide, etc. Or logical operations like comparisons. What do you mean by comparisons? Greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, or if it is equal to, if two objects are equal or if their values are equal, it is something like that, and then convert them into useful information. We'll see this comparison part in a while, but first try to understand performing arithmetic operations. What does it mean? Like, we were talking about the olden days computers where they were only trying to implement addition, subtractions, multiplication operations, right? So that all comes under the processing part. In the processing, what do you have? They're performing arithmetic operations. What are your arithmetic operations? Addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, etc. And logical operations are like, suppose if you have a program, that program is trying to compare two values or two weights, suppose, and it has to give you an output where which weight is more than the like in the two objects or in the two inputs given, which weight is more than the other. That is what you want from your program. Now, in such cases, we'll be using comparison operators. Comparison operators, they first try to, when we program your application, will be providing these operators, and whenever you have inputted two values, it will check with the help of comparison operator. First, it will check if the first value, if it's greater than the second value or not. If it is the case, then it will provide an output like the first value is greater than the second. If not, then it will again check for if the second value is greater than the first. If the second value is greater than the first, then it will have some other output. And then if it is not the case with these two, then it will check for the third one, where what if both the values are equal? There might be some chances where the user might give both the values as the same thing, right? So it will check for an equal operator. So it's trying for equal to, less than, or greater than. And we have so many other different comparison or logical operators. We'll be discussing them as we move on in the further modules, but this is how these operators will be useful. This I'm only trying to go with the basic, where you'll understand what is the importance of such operators. Okay. And then once you have inputted the data, then you're storing it on your computer, and then you're processing it. After you process that data, what is that? In the first class, we were talking about data processing, where you input something, you store something, uh, where the data that you are inputting, it is stored, and then it is processed. Once the data that is stored is processed, it will be transferred to the output module or to the output device or a program. Like that program, what it does, it will give an output out of the input that you have provided. That is called data processing. This concept we discussed in the first class itself. So the same thing is happening here also. Initially, we get some input. That input is stored and it's processed. Once the processed information, it is sent to the output. The process of producing useful information or results for the users, such as printed report or visual display. Whatever it has processed, it will give it in the form of a printed report or visual display. Printed report is just like your hard copy that you take a printout, or your visual display is something where you CPU is connected to a monitor, and that data is the process data is available to you. And then the last part of your operation is controlling. What do you mean by controlling? Directing the manner and sequence in which all of the above operations are performed. We were previously, I was talking to you about arithmetic and logical unit and control unit. The arithmetic and logical unit takes care of the processing part, where in the previous slide, I was talking to you about processing of arithmetic and logical operations. So your arithmetic and logical unit, it takes care of all the processing that needs to be done. And we had something called control unit, CU, in the previous slide. That control unit makes sure that everything of these 5 operations are performed in a systematic way and the proper accurate output is achieved for the user. So you have to understand these 5 basic operations first, and then this is the basic organization of computer system. This is how all of them are interconnected. Over here, what are the things that you can identify according to the slide that we were discussing previously? The first thing we were discussing in the operations is the input unit. The program and data, we give it as an input to this computer system. Then this input unit is stored. We were talking about how do we store the data that is given as an input. Now this input is directly connected to your storage unit. What do you have in storage unit? Again, you have two types. One is the primary storage and the secondary storage. These we'll discuss about the storage unit detailedly in the later modules, but as of now, just understand there is an input device that is connected to a storage unit directly, and that storage unit in turn is connected to your CPU. What does your CPU have? Arithmetic and logical unit as well as your control unit. Now, the CPU directly interacts with the storage unit, and this storage unit is again directly connected to your output. So what are the different things that are directly connected? Your input is not directly connected to your arithmetic or logical unit. You are not directly sending or transferring your data to the CPU. We are just transferring the data that we want to give it as an input to the storage unit. And this storage unit in turn is directly connected to the CPU, and these two work as a process and they process all the data. Once the process is done, the CPU again gives the data back or the process data back to the storage unit, and this storage unit gives the output to the output unit. It sends the output to the output unit. From the output unit, the user will be able to see the information and the results are obtained. Okay. So try to understand this picture very well, because according to this picture, all the architecture and the design of a computer is based upon. That's it for today. We'll close it off here. In tomorrow's class, we'll talk about the different input devices we have, but try to understand this. I'll again discuss it once again tomorrow. In just brief, in 5 minutes, we'll try to discuss all this and we'll move to the input devices. That's it for today. Thank you.